What's up, YouTube? This is your girl Megan from the HoodAstroQ. Welcome back to my channel, to all of my returning subscribers. However, if this is your first time joining me on today, hello, welcome. It's here that we use celestial bodies to help us gain more understanding on our favorite celebrities, world events, but most importantly, our damn selves, okay? So don't be afraid to click the subscribe button to become a part of the family. Thumbs up this video if you enjoy the content, and click the notification bell so that way you will be alerted whenever I come on here with a new post. And then finally, those of you all who are interested in booking your very own natal chart reading, you can contact me at astrowerld, that's astro, WERLD, @gmail.com, and we can get you squared away on today, okay? So as you can see, the topic of today's video is discussing what exactly are aspects in astrology. So as many of you may know, astrology is one of those subjects that is full of jargon, especially to those of you who may not be as familiar and well versed in astrology. A lot of that jargon can be extremely intimidating and really confusing more than anything else. So in an attempt to help make it easier for you to interpret your own natal chart and maybe even the natal charts of other people, it would be helpful to actually know what the heck are aspects and what do they mean and why are they important when using astrology. Well, aspects are geometric angles that planets make to one another, okay? They signify the relationship that these planetary bodies have with one another in proximity to their distance from Earth. Now, this is because astrology is based on a geocentric model. Geocentric is just a fancy way of saying that planet Earth is just automatically assumed to be the center of the universe, with all of the planets in our solar system rotating around us, which is very interesting because it reflects a lot of the sentiments of scientists back in like the 1600s and so on and so forth. And even though modern science absolutely contradicts this theory, it's still very interesting and it does beg one to go, But that's neither here nor there. These angular relationships are very important as they can modify the expression of the sign and planets involved, okay, which can result in positive or negative physical, psychological, or situational influences over the chart holder. Now, it's important to understand that the natal chart is a perfect circle, which is comprised of 360 degrees. Each astrological house, representative of the 12 zodiac signs, occupies 30 degrees each. Now, orbs are used to measure the difference or amount of space between the aspect's exact degree, with 0 degrees being the most exact or precise that a degree can be. Now, as mentioned earlier, aspects can be broken down into positives and negatives, or as some astrologers would like to say, hard or soft aspects. They can also be broken down into major and minor. Today, we're going to talk about the major, starting with conjunctions. Now, the conjunction is neither hard nor soft, as they can play out either way. But ideally, conjunctions are exact, meaning that there are 0 degrees between each planet. But the orb can extend up to 8 to 10 degrees, depending on the planets involved. They typically occur within the same sign, but out-of-sign conjunctions do occur as well. An example of this would be a person who has their sun at the 15th degree of Scorpio and Mars at the 18th degree of Scorpio. This would be a same sign conjunction. However, if that same person's sun was at the 27th degree of Libra and their Mars was at the 4th degree of Scorpio, this would also be a conjunction, but just an out-of-sign conjunction. It's important to note that the tighter the conjunction, the more powerful the influence. The planet's energies become blended with the heavier planet in the driver's seat, meaning that it tends to dominate the expression. Conjunctions represent self-contained or concentrated energy, where one can become fixated, but can also be prone to blind spot. Now, when talking about these soft aspects, you have the trine. Trines occur when planets are about 120 degrees or 4 signs away from one another, and they usually occur between two signs that share the same element. For example, Aries and Leo trine one another. Scorpio and Cancer also trine one another. Trines represent free-flowing energy. It's kind of a facilitation of sorts. They represent things that come naturally, our passions and innate talents. But these energies can come to us with so little effort that we take it for granted. So wherever you see a lot of trines, motivation can be lacking. Laziness could also be a really big byproduct of that. And they could also symbolize areas where we tend to sleep on ourselves. Now, it's important to note that once we get to this point, all aspects, whether hard or soft, have an orb allowance of about 6 to 8 degrees, depending on who you ask. I personally say 8. Now, the sextile, on the other hand, is also a soft aspect, but they are about 60 degrees apart, okay? And similar to trines, they are a more easygoing energy, but they are more strongly felt. Now, whereas the trine, you had them occurring between two signs that share the same element, sextiles are usually involving different but compatible elements to create a more supportive energy, and they can represent opportunities and new ideas. The sextile is also commonly associated with the number 6, which is Venus-based energy. And it could even deal with a lot of the relationships that we have where a person is in the right place at the right time. It could even deal with the beauty that we have in our lives or where we're just able to catch a break. Now, getting to the hard aspects, one of those being the opposition. The opposition is 180 degrees, which is important to keep in mind that it's half of the 360, with that 360 being represented by the natal chart, right? The circle. And because it's half of that 360, this places both planets involved on polar opposing sides of the chart. Therefore, oppositions typically occur in opposing signs. Not always, though. Similar to the conjunction and many of the other aspects mentioned, there are out of sign oppositions, or more formally referred to as dissociative aspects. But once again, ideally speaking, these polar opposite signs or polar opposite energies represent two energies being at odds with one another, and it could absolutely play out in terms of conflict, typically external conflict. The smaller planet involved tends to be projected onto others, while the heavier planet wins out. These two polar opposite energies are also extremely difficult to integrate. And with the opposition symbolizing external conflict, it's not uncommon for it to deal with, once again, outside events. It could also point towards imbalances between two extremes and even unforeseen circumstances. And this is how the opposition tends to differ from the square. A lot of times the opposition can show up as things that are outside of our control. It tends to split us into two or place us against others. It could also deal with bad timing and discoordination. And then finally, the square is 90 degrees, and it occurs in signs sharing the same modality. This is why all of the angular houses tend to square one another, the cadent houses, and so on and so forth. The square represents two energies that thwart one another's expression, especially to the smaller planet. And this could create more so an internal form of tension or conflict from which one could either rise to overcome or fold completely. And in real life, this could actually even cause for a lot of people to overcompensate. I look at this aspect as oil and water. These are two very solid modes of expression that just don't belong together. The square can produce a lot of nervous, intense, emotional energy. It could also represent ongoing struggles that can result in explosions or collapse. They can also be really big motivations for change. And this is why I always tell clients who have a surplus of squares in their chart to not necessarily look at it as a doom and gloom aspect. Obviously, it's a hard aspect. It is a quote unquote negative aspect, but it can definitely motivate a person to change, to work to overcome this energy. This is why you tend to see a lot of squares in the charts of very highly successful people. So that concludes my video on aspects in astrology. Once again, I chose to stick with the main aspects. Y'all let me know in the comment section if you would like to hear more about the minor aspects that are typically considered. So yeah, make sure you guys practice unconditional self-love so that you can love others. And until the next video, I holla.